The 4th of July, or Independence Day, is one of, if not the most important and famous holiday in America. But how did it come about? Why is it so popular and important? In this slideshow, I'm going to answer those questions and more. The Revolutionary War broke out in 1775 between the colonies and Britain. At that time, not many colonists wanted complete independence from the British, and only the most radical of Americans actually wanted it. However, by the time 1776 rolled around, the sentiment towards independence started to change. Hostility had been present towards the British for a long time, but the beginning of the Revolutionary War changed many colonists' minds about independence from the British. Many revolutionaries spread anti-British and revolutionary sentiments, such as Thomas Paine in the book Common Sense. On June 7, 1776, the Virginia delegate for the Continental Congress Richard Henry Lee introduced a motion to call for the independence of the colonies from British rule. This was a controversial topic, so the Congress ended up postponing the vote on declaring for independence, but appointed a five-man committee which included Thomas Jefferson, Ben Franklin, and John Adams to draft a formal statement to justify the breaking away from Great Britain. On July 2, 1776, the Continental Congress finally voted on independence, and voted almost unanimously in favor of independence. Interestingly, John Adams said that July 2nd will be celebrated by succeeding generations as the Great Anniversary Festival instead of July 4th. So why do we celebrate July 4th instead? This is because the Continental Congress officially adopted the Declaration of Independence on the 4th, and it was much publicized, unlike the vote on independence on the 2nd, causing the 4th to be celebrated instead of the 2nd. The Declaration of Independence itself was signed on August 2, 1776, and not on July 4th. After the publication of the Declaration of Independence, the colonists celebrated by holding mock funerals of King George, symbolizing the end of monarchy in America and the beginning of freedom and independence. This is in contrast to before the Revolution, when the colonists annually celebrated King George's birthday with festivities and processions. How times change. The first observances of Independence Day came with concerts, parades, the firings of cannons and muskets, along with readings of the Declaration of Independence. In Philadelphia, the first annual commemoration of independence was held, which had an official dinner for the Continental Congress, fireworks, and 13-gun salutes. The ships that were in the port were also colored red, white, and blue, symbolizing the American flag and freedom. The tradition of fireworks at the 4th of July came in this Philadelphia celebration, marking the first, but certainly not the last time fireworks would be used in a 4th of July celebration. The fireworks began and ended with 13 rockets, symbolizing the 13 colonies. In 1778, George Washington celebrated the 4th of July by issuing double rations of rum to all of his soldiers on the day, and gave a feu de joie to his soldiers, which means fire of joy in French. A feu de joie is a celebratory shooting of rifles on a rare, but important day. By the end of the 1700s, the Independence Day celebrations had been split into two. The two largest political parties at the time, the Federalist Party and the Democrat-Republicans, held separate celebrations for Independence Day, and the celebrations were often politically charged, and became less about celebrating independence and more about pushing the ideals of the party. This changed somewhat after the War of 1812, in which the U.S. faced off against Britain in a rematch of the Revolutionary War. After the war, the Independence Day celebrations became even more widespread in order to spread patriotism throughout the country. In 1870, the U.S. government made July 4th an unpaid federal holiday, and in 1938, July 4th became a paid federal holiday. These changes, as well as the increasing focus on patriotism and leisure, decreased the political significance of the holiday, bringing the day back to its origins in celebrating the independence from Britain. With the background out of way, let's talk about the celebrations themselves. Most people celebrate Independence Day by attending picnics or barbecues with family and friends. Parades are also very common on July 4th, usually being around the mid to late morning in order to not clash with the get-togethers many people have in the afternoon and the night. In the evening, the fireworks would begin in many public places, leading to spectacular displays and a sleepless night. Fireworks have been popular since the 15th century to celebrate important holidays, such as the birthday of a monarch, but they became extremely popular in 4th of July celebrations as they symbolized national pride and patriotism to the American people. I know I mentioned earlier that July 2nd was once thought to be the day for celebrations, but did you know that July 3rd used to be the main day for celebrations? The day was marked by large gatherings of people, bonfires, and most interestingly, piling up barrels and casks in order to make the highest tower. At the end of the day, the barrel and cask tower would be lit up, ushering in the celebration. These celebrations aren't as widespread today, but were very popular in New England in the 1700s and the 1800s. Anyways, back to present day. Along with the fireworks, there are also a multitude of patriotic songs that are played on Independence Day. Some of the most famous songs played are the Star-Spangled Banner, which is the American anthem, America the Beautiful, Yankee Doodle, among many others. There are many famous fireworks celebrations for Independence Day, but arguably the most famous is the Macy's fireworks display in New York over the East River, though it has held celebrations over the Hudson River. There are other major displays in places such as Seattle, San Diego, Boston, San Francisco, and Washington, D.C. There is also an interesting celebration that happens over the Detroit River. It is called the Windsor, Detroit International Freedom Festival, and celebrates the 4th of July for Americans, but also celebrates Canada Day, which takes place on July 1st for Canadians. In this celebration, there is a large firework festival that happens over the Detroit River, which is celebrated by both Canadians and Americans. It seems America won't conquer Canada just yet. Another interesting place where Independence Day celebrations happen is in Seward, Nebraska. They started celebrations in the town square back in 1868 and have continued celebrations ever since. In 1979, the American Congress declared that Seward was America's official 4th of July city small town USA, which is certainly a mouthful. Seward only has a population of around 6,000 people, but it swells all the way to above 40,000 during the July 4th celebrations, showing its popularity. 4th of July celebrations don't happen only in the U.S., as they also happen in Denmark. In Denmark, a society called the Rebuild Society holds a festival for Danish Americans on July 4th, and is said to be the largest celebration for the 4th of July outside of America. America isn't the only country that celebrates July 4th as its Independence Day, as the Philippines does as well. It is called Republic Day in the Philippines and commemorates the day when the Philippines ceased to be an American territory and when the U.S. recognized the independence of the Philippines. Now, I want to talk about some fun facts about July 4th. Thomas Jefferson and John Adams were the only two presidents to have signed the Declaration of Independence, and they both died on the same exact day. That day, July 4th, 1826, coincidentally the 50th anniversary of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. They weren't the only presidents to die on July 4th, as James Monroe died on July 4th, 1831, bringing July 4th's presidential KD ratio to 3. Or it would, if Calvin Coolidge wasn't born on July 4th, bringing the ratio down to 2. People spend a lot of money on July 4th, as it was reported that people are going to spend $9.5 billion on food alone, and in 2022 people spent $2.3 billion on fireworks. This is in contrast to the original vision of July 4th, as companies who remained open on July 4th were considered unpatriotic. Lightning round. The One World Trade Center is 1,776 feet tall to mark the year of the signing of the Declaration of Independence. Whenever new states were added, new stars and stripes were added on July 4th. President Zachary Taylor died in 1850 due to eating spoiled fruit at a 4th of July celebration. And last, but not least, John Adams refused invitations to celebrating the 4th of July because he was annoyed that people didn't celebrate independence on the 2nd. Pretty insane, right? Thanks for watching. Watch this video, or this playlist, or subscribe.